Hi, and welcome to my YouTube channel. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Daniel Pinault, and I am a long-time Access MVP. In today's video, a short one, I thought I'd touch upon a common need, at least one that I've had numerous times over my career, was reading data from text files. Now, text files, it could be literally a TXT file, it could be an SQL file, it could be a CSV, text file is a generic term here, but basically I wanted to be able to read a file that was on a hard drive and be able to assign that to a string variable in VBA for me to be then able to work with. So I could break it down, parse it, and do whatever I needed to with it. This is something I've done quite a lot for, amongst other things, importing data. So once again, if you turn to my website, I do have an article on this, read file into memory. So if we just copy the function itself and we go into a blank database and we turn to VBA, obviously, we're going to insert a module and we're going to simply paste in that function. So the function is now there. As always, then you should perform a compile to make sure everything is good in the realm of VBA, that the database and the VBA editor are happy with the code. Once that's done, we can save it. You can name it whatever you'd like. So I now have the function available to me to use. So now let's look at performing an operation, actually doing something with it. So for today's purposes, I've already created a very simple text file on my desktop that has 4 lines of data in it. So let's look at how we can read that and work with it. So we'll create another module. It could do it in the same module, makes no difference, but just to keep things segregated a little bit, I'm going to create here a sub test, let's say. And now let's start coding. So the first thing we have to do is we have to read the file into a variable. So it doesn't make a difference. You can call this whatever you'd like. I'm just going to do, let's say, contents. Wow, contents. And we can call this is going to be a string. So what is that going to be in reality? Well, we're going to read file, and we're going to have to tell it where to read. Now remember, where am I getting read file from? That's the name of my function, right? And here in my usage example, I simply pass it the path to the text file that I want read into memory. So that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to come here, users, oops, Daniel desktop, and I called it test.txt. So at this point, we have a functional routine, and it will read it into memory, and we can test this and prove it. So let's save this to begin with before we lose any work, and we simply run our sub. And if you hover over, you will see that you see some data being displayed to you. Obviously, it's not the complete data from the text file, but you do clearly see that it is reading that file. Okay, so that's good. Now, that's fine and dandy. We have one string that has all the data. Typically, we need to break that down. Now, it all depends on your scenario, and I can't create a video that's going to cover every single individual scenario. But in most cases, in my experience at least, is I've needed to break it down line by line. So this, for instance, CSVs and other types of imports that I've made from other systems, it's always been a line-by-line kind of situation. So how are we going to do that? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to build, or at least I'm going to build, an array representing the lines of data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do line data, and it's going to equal my variable here, but we're going to split it. We're going to use the split function, and we're going to split it based on the VBCRLF. So each time there's a line, a new line, it's going to be a new entry in my array. So now obviously we need to create a dim for that variable. And this is what I do. So once again, if we run this, you will see now that a line data, I don't know, we'll take 0 for instance. Oops, I erased the closing bracket. There we go. It has an entry. And similarly, if we do line 2, we get a different entry. So line by line is now been broken down to us just by using the split function. Now we've got our data accessible to us line by line. You know, if you had comma separated, then you do another split on each line to extract each element of a line, and so on and so forth. But for today's requirement, I have a name on each line. So what I can do a for I equals 0 to u bound, so the maximum number of elements in my array. Next I. Now I have a new variable I, so let's declare I as long. And then here we can come and just for our purposes today, we can do a debug print. We can do I plus 1, send, it's just sequential numbering, but instead of being from 0, I'm adding a 1 to it. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 instead of 0, 1, 2. And then here we can output what is the data on each individual line. And we can come here using our index number of I. So we're indexing them just like we did here, 0, 1, etc. Let's clear this guy out. And now if we run this in the immediate window, as you can see here, line 1 has John, line 2 has Jane, line 3 has Karen, and line 4 has Sam. So very easily using the read file, you're able to read in text, and then using simple VBA split amongst other things, or you could use regular expressions. There's a whole slew of different tools at your disposition here, but you can parse whatever you've read into memory to then work with, whether it's to validate a license, check a registration key, whether it's to import data, so break down into different fields and then perform SQL operations on it. The choice is yours. But to read a file, it's no more complicated than that, and assign the output of that to a variable that then you can use to your heart's content, however you see fit to meet your business needs. And all of that derives from this very simple function. And as I said, it is available on my website for you to copy, paste, and use as you require. Hope this helps a few of you out there. It really is very simple. And we'll see you in the next video. Take care, guys, and thank you for spending a couple minutes with me.